every road that starts with Jeffrey Epstein goes through Trump. Whether it's in Palm Beach, whether it's the airplanes, whether it's him finding his victims in Mar-a-Lago, to the women pass between them. This shit is really weird, man. Let's watch Stacy Williams here. She was a Sports Illustrated model who dated Epstein.
That was his bro. That was his wingman. It was clearly. I'd hear about Ghilan and I'd hear about Jeffrey. And I met Ghilan in his house. She would come wafting in and out the home in New York. So he was clearly just someone that he talked about all the time. And again, I met Jeffrey the second time and we started dating based on the reintroduction that happened at the Plaza Hotel at a Christmas party in 1992 that Donald Trump threw. And they were very, very close.
So let's talk about this incident, alleged incident in 1993, where you say that Trump groped you in front of Epstein. I do want to note that CNN has spoken to 3 friends of yours who confirmed that you told them about this alleged incident over past decades.
Yeah, before I get into the details of what happened, which, obviously I told you guys and I've shared with multiple outlets, the specifics of the assault that happened.
Now, can we just say here that this is so common with Donald Trump? There have been beauty pageant contestants, there have been society girls, there have been workers at his properties, there have been workers at his hotels, workers at hotels that have had parties related to him, people who worked on the TV show. The list of young women who said specifically that Donald Trump groped them. This was very common, okay? Very common. Now, he himself in the Access Hollywood tape says he doesn't even ask. He just grabs him by the pussy and you can get away with it. If you're a star, they'll let you. But he used to do that. He used to go to women and just literally push them up against the wall and touch their private parts and shit and stick his tongue in their mouth and then walk away from it. It was like a power and control thing of him being able to just sort of dominate a woman for a second and she's all shocked what the hell's going on. And then he just flits off and just it's like he's using, urinating on a fire hydrant or some shit with his little faux domination. He can get away with everything. And I mean, we're talking upwards of 50, 75 women at least that have experienced this shit with him and have talked about it. Now, the problem we face, guys, is prior to 2018, when MeToo happened, this kind of behavior was just okay. It was just boys will be boys, is how they described it. And it's bullshit. Like I said, in the 90s, I worked in restaurants. Every restaurant I worked at in LA, one of the managers would sexually harass a couple of the waitresses. They would lick their neck. They would touch their butts. They would do all kinds of creepy shit on the floor. We had one manager at Jerry's Deli where this waitress, the girl who cut and styled my hair, she was out there ringing in a check and he came up behind her and pressed his whole body against her, forcing her up against the computer, grinding his pelvis into her ass and licking her neck right out in front of all the diners, out in the middle of the fucking restaurant. Nobody said shit, okay? This shit was just tolerated in the mid-90s. Nobody cared. It was literally the price women paid in order to keep a job. And I mean, you would be hard-pressed to find anyone who would even say anything because they didn't want to lose their job. Now, with that particular manager, he and I got into it a couple of weeks before I left, and I ended up selling him out to the corporate office at Jerry's Deli, and they did fire him. He got the fucking boot. But the only reason I did it is because he kind of came after me and tried to get me fired. But it's crazy that if he hadn't come to get me fired, I probably wouldn't have gone after him. But I did unloaded all of his sexual harassment, and then they did fire him when I fucking threw it out there. But dude, it's so crazy how rampant this shit is and how tolerated it is, which is why when I hear some guy who's like, oh yeah, I'm worried about a false accusation, it's like, fuck you, bro. Thousands of years, women have literally been getting raped and molested out in the open, and they've had to put up with this shit. And so, like, I'm sorry, if a guy gets a false accusation, I'm not really going to cry a river over it. You know, I mean, it sucks. Nobody wants to get a false accusation. But, you know, the price we may pay as men to equalize this shit out is some of us may have to suffer with false accusations in order to get all the real creeps. You know, because I believe that a false accusation, you will survive it. I do. I believe that you will survive it ultimately. And yeah, dude, the real ones are like 99-1 for the fake ones. I just think it's time for us men to bear some of the burden. You know, like I would rather be falsely accused and get fired from a job or some shit if I knew it was protecting all the other women at that job. Like I would gladly do that rather than watch them all get sexually harassed every day.
I want to point out that I was polygraphed before I did all this by one of the most renowned examiners in the world. Michael Wolff has hundreds of hours of interviews with Jeffrey Epstein where Jeffrey confirmed to Michael what the two of them did to me long before I came out and told you all of this. So those are two critical data points that you need to have, and now I'll walk you through what happened. I was dating Jeffrey. He was always talking about Donald. It was his bestie and everything. And he was joking about how Donald thought I was hot and Donald thinks I'm this or whatever, you know, wants to talk to you. And he was telling me this as we were taking a walk down Fifth Avenue one day. And he said, let's stop in and see him at his offices. So we went up to his office in Trump Tower. And within a couple of minutes, Donald was outside of his door. And his hands were all over me. They were on my breasts, they were on my butt, they were on, you know, my hips, up and down, while the two of them just kept having a normal conversation. They were back and forth, smiling and grinning and carrying on a conversation while Donald ran his hands all over me. And, you know, when that happens in broad daylight in someone's office and an assistant's walking back and forth,
that means it's normal.
If it happens in a dark alleyway, right, you defend yourself. But when it's hidden in its brazenness like that, which is Donald Trump's forte, we got back in the elevator, and Jeffrey's energy had changed. He was like seething. He was enraged. He wouldn't make eye contact with me. And then we got out on the street on Fifth Avenue. And he looked at me and he just started yelling at me, saying, why did you let him do that? And he was so enraged. And then I remember thinking, like, why did I? I felt like I was coming back into my body at that moment. And I was confused.
Dude, isn't that crazy? I mean, so one of the things that's really crazy about this is humiliation ritual is really well said. But one of the things that's really interesting is people always like to take this interrogatory tone of like, why didn't she stop him? Right? And the thing about it is, though, is you kind of go into a little bit of shock when that happens, like out in public or whatever. Like, is this really happening? Is this person really doing this? And like she said, she's in a hallway and everyone is walking by. The assistants are walking by, seeing it happen, and nobody even says anything. So then the victim starts thinking like, am I the one who's crazy? Like, why do I feel, right? The female assistant just walked by me and she's not upset by this. So I must be crazy, right? There's like a weird mind game that goes on when you're in shock. And, you know, these guys that do this type of behavior, they are experts at turning it around on the other person. You know, I've talked a lot about my abusive dad. He was very abusive to my mom, and he just had this natural skill where my mom could like come to my dad with a very real problem that she had about my dad's behavior. What you did was not okay. And within a handful of back and forth, my dad would have firmly convinced my mom that she was really the problem. And like every single time, he just knew instinctively how to like turn it around on her. And again, it comes down to this sort of predator prey thing where when you look at some of those dysfunctional male female or teacher student power dynamics, it's like a predator and prey cycle. There's like an energy transference where the guys that commit those types of power abuses, They have a sixth sense for being able to sort of sniff out the women that are going to allow it. Okay, they develop like a radar. And in fact, I think some of the people that allow the behavior have a radar of their own. Like, I know I've experienced this in my own dating relationships, where if I'm particularly vulnerable, I would like, my vulnerability would be something that a manipulative person could sense, and they would find me and attract to me, and I would attract to them because my vulnerability was seeking, you know, a way to get into its own shame spiral. It's like super toxic. They have a sixth sense. They really do. And I mean, I've seen this play out in my life. Obviously, having a manipulative, abusive dad, I had to like identify the manipulative part of me that I got from him, right? And I had to learn, because I used to be really manipulative. I mean, Jenny will tell you, even now, that I have an innate knack for like getting out of trouble. If I do something wrong, if I fuck up, I have a knack, a charming way about me that can just wriggle out of trouble effortlessly. I don't even try to do it. It's just this well-sculpted defense mechanism that comes in. And it's something that I got from my dad, that I got from watching his manipulative behavior. And so learning how to not use that in an offensive way was really part of my healing process. I don't know, you develop this shit without even recognizing it. Like, for example, when you look at even these guys, these predators like Trump, that will go out there and, like he said, he sees her in the hallway and he's touching her and feeling her up. I guarantee you, while Trump was doing that, he was believing that she loved it, that she was into it. He believed that she was wanting him to do that. Okay, that's the message that's playing in his head. He's reading her social cues of anxiety and standoffishness and discomfort and shock as like an invitation. Okay, he literally is like thinking she's getting turned on by this, right? It's fucking crazy. We got taught as young men to be pursuers and that they would play hard to get. And she really wanted you to pursue. She wanted you to take control and take charge. And she was just playing a game with you. But it's like, dude, it's so fucking toxic, bro. It's so fucking toxic. It's like so wrong and off base, man. There's a reason why women like hate men. Let me just tell you. All right, there's a reason. There's a really good reason why people fucking hate men. You know what I'm saying? It's fucking, but I believe though that like we can change if you want to heal and if you want to get beyond the programming and shit. We can absolutely change, but we have to start teaching guys much younger that that's bullshit. And that's what I don't like about the, you know, the Andrew Tate shit and the, you know, the Donald Trump shit and all these manosphere guys, is because they're wrong. Their shit is all like it's predatory. It's like more rape culture stuff. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.